Holy crap, how's it going, everybody? Apparently, if you wait too long after the scheduled start time, it quits even saying or showing the preview. It just says preview and waiting on Stinger Swarm, and I'm trying to figure out why the stream isn't working to get the preview, but it is now. We are live. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Typically on Thursday nights, I do my, I didn't check this. The audio, yeah, everything's working good. Cool. Typically on Thursday nights, I do my Part 107 test prep stream, and we missed last week because Christmas. And this week, I decided to change it up a little bit. I'm still going to do the one monthly free to everybody on YouTube Part 107 test prep stream. Expect that probably next week. As for this week, we are doing, we're going to talk about the new remote ID proposed rules that the FAA has issued. If you haven't seen over on Facebook or YouTube, Bruce XJet's channel, there's been a lot of talk about the proposed rules that the FAA has put out regarding remote ID. And, it's hard to find a silver lining for FPV in general. Maybe some other drone operators can sit here and say, I'll still be able to do what fly my Mavic or whatever. But for FPV, it's gonna really change the game if these rules go into effect as they currently are. So, oh my God, okay. The chat is exploding. Enoch, yes, I get it. Nobody is happy. Nobody is happy. So, I'm just going to start off with a brief explanation of what the proposed rules are and what kind of to expect next. If you've not been around aviation and the FAA for any length of time, then this may be your first time ever seeing a proposed rule set. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about the process and how this unfolds, as well as what the proposed rules are. So first of all, what typically happens when the FAA makes rules is Congress says, hey, FAA, you guys should make some rules about X, Y, and Z. We need this to happen. And so that step has already occurred, and the FAA then goes and meets with all the stakeholders, as they say it. They had a meeting with the AMA, the FPV Freedom Coalition, Amazon, FedEx, all sorts of bigwigs, and they got together and decided on how to implement rules regarding identifying drones in real time. Their big concern is that if you have rogue operators of drones, that there's no way to immediately identify it. If you read through there's no way to immediately identify who's operating it and where the control station is. So those are their goals. Now, I'm not justifying anything. I'm just explaining where they're coming from and telling you guys I am wholeheartedly not fond of the rules, but I just want to tell you guys what it is. I am not going to be able to keep up with the chat on this one, apparently, because, you got like Flying Dada, just freedom of speech. Oh my God. All right, you know what? Freedom of speech means wait, how do you, dang. How do I time out this dude? All right, quit spamming the chat. Otherwise, I'm going to figure out how to, I see how to remove you. There it is. Put user in a timeout. Freedom of speech has its limits. So I just want everybody else to be able to respond in the chat. And so anyways, yes, they've put out the proposed rules, and the next step is it's open for comment. So once we talk about this, there is a link in the description to the proposed rules. I ask that you please go and look them over for yourself and also submit a comment. And I'm not talking about like a troll type comment where you're like, this is BS, don't do this, or you can't take away my rights, or don't tread on me. None of that crap. Like put a constructive comment in there. Explain what it is that you're using drones for. Let them know what things you would most like to see changed about this proposed rule. And also, you know, talk if there's any way that you're working in the industry, make sure that you're mentioning all of the jobs that this is going to cost. Because let's face it, Banggood is not going to change their ways, but this is going to really hurt the bottom line over at Get FPV, Newbie Drones. A lot of US based manufacturers and stores, etc. Wait, why don't comment yet, XJet? But anyways, let's keep talking. So what are these proposed rules? Now, forgive me if I don't do the best job of explaining it. I thought about making like a produced video, but I decided to stick with a live stream because I like the interaction and I want to be able to talk to you guys about this in real times. So I'm just going to go over the basics of these proposed rules, and then I'm going to open it up and I will be reading comments and answering questions, etc. But for the beginning of the stream, I just wanted to focus on getting the information out there, etc. Well, okay, good. I just realized I've moved my camera tripod, apparently. Like, this table is not normally in the shot, and I just realized it's in the shot, and I'm like, shit, where's the Tango 2? It is just barely out of the shot. You guys missed by like this much of having the Tango 2 in the shot the whole time. Actually, I have two of them right there because they sent me the final version of the hardware just this week. Okay. So anyways, let's talk about what the proposed rule is. So the general gist of it is they are going to be requiring that all drones above 0.55 pounds, that's that 250 gram limit that everybody talks about with the registration requirement, any drone that is above the 0.55 pounds is going to require registration and some form of remote ID. Now, there are a couple of exemptions. You will technically still be able to fly FPV, fly your FPV home-built drones, but it's only going to be at AMA fields, and that blows. Basically, what they're calling it is FAA recognized identification area. I'm just going to switch over here to this graphic because this does a really good job of explaining it. Over here on the right side, we have the FAA recognized identification area. What that is, your AMA field, FPV Freedom Coalition, only a community-based organization recognized by the FAA is going to be able to apply for and get granted this status of being a FAA recognized identification area. Now, operators of drones and model aircraft that are flying at these FRIAs, F-R-I-As, don't require the will not be required to have any additional hardware on their drone. It will be required to be registered. They have expressly said that they are doing away with what we've been doing in the hobby, where you register for one drone and then have a million builds that you just keep using under that same registration. Going forward, they are going to require that everybody register every single build, which sucks. So yeah, you don't have to have the remote ID capability. You can operate at those FAA recognized identification areas and keep going. All right. Now, the second category, there's two categories with remote ID, and both of these are going to require an internet connection. And I think that this is one of the biggest downsides to this, because even if you're playing by the rules and you're like a cinematography guy, or I'm going on commercial shoots, if I'm operating somewhere with no self-service, then there's no way to meet either of these other two requirements. Even if I jump through all the hoops that I'm going to complain about in a minute, there's no way to do it. So my next gripe is that even if I try to follow the rules, I can't do it in remote locations. So if you're talking about wanting to film in some very beautiful parts of this country and climb mountains and do all of this stuff, it's going to be a lot trickier. Okay, the limited remote identification drone, which is the second category here, is going to have, basically you control it much the same way that we do now with like a DJI drone, where it's connected to your smartphone and a controller, right? So the controller talks to the drone talks to the controller will talk to your phone of some sort, or over the internet, and at the control station is where the information about the drone's location and who's operating it and all of that stuff is going to get uploaded to the internet. So the big internet connection here is between the user at the ground station and the internet. Now the remote ID is going to transmit the location, the ID, the serial number, the location of the operator, and there's going to be information available to both law enforcement and the general public. I'm not a fan of the general public. Like, it's one thing to let law enforcement know about all of the operations. It's another thing if I'm not 100% clear on how much information is going to be available to the general public through the system. If any Joe Schmo can point his camera in the sky and see a drone and know exactly where the operators are, I think that's a problem. For every type of operation. If you're talking like commercial drones filming for Top Gun, that's a problem, because the guys filming the Top Gun stuff don't want a bunch of randos showing up on set because they were able to point their cell phone at the drone in the sky. Bad idea. Now, the third type of remotely identified drone is going to be the standard, and this is what they're pushing for. One of the benefits of the standard is it's going to make it easier to get the beyond visual line of sight waivers, operation over people waivers, and they're saying night waivers, but the night waiver is so freaking easy to get right now already. If you didn't know, my 107 course has the I go over how to get your night waiver. You can literally do it in an hour. That is not something that is made easier by this, I would argue. Okay, so with the standard remote identification, what's going to happen is the drone's control link is going to be through the internet. So you will control it through the internet. It is going to be directly reporting the remote ID itself over, I assume, cell towers, etc. And then you're going to talk to the internet through cell or cable or whatever you have, and to talk to the drone in order to have your control link. Again, that information is going to be available to the general public and law enforcement. Now, I have over here also up is the site where the proposed rules are, and all of the details. When you guys have any questions, if you have a question that I don't know the answer to, I am going to consult with this. Link is in the description, and yeah, so a couple other things to note before we jump in. So like I said, there were three types of remote ID. You got the standard, you've got the limited, and then you've got the operations in the FRIAs, the FAA registered identification areas. Now, the two other things, like you may be sitting here thinking, oh, well, that's no big deal. I just put an extra component on my drone and it's going to report the location. Or, hey, if I got a GPS and then TBS can work out with their new Wi-Fi connection how to report for me. It's not going to work that way, because the big problem, this is what I would recommend changing. If we could implement our own remote ID system, I might be a little bit more on board, so that we could basically throw a GPS on, have some additional code for beta flight, which I'll get to in a second, and then work something out with the TBS Crossfire talking to the smartphone, reporting this information. But that's not possible, because in order for any drone to be classified to operate under the limited or the standard, it has to be manufactured by a registered manufacturer. The process has to be signed off by the FAA. The remote ID reporting device has to be signed off by the FAA. There will be no Homebuilts allowed in this. Now, somebody came into my chat the other night talking about, oh no, they're going to allow Homebuilts as long as it's a kit from a registered manufacturer and you follow their build specifically. I read over the regulations today and I cannot find any reference to that. If anybody in the chat has information about that, then link it to me. Somebody said that in the chat last week and I just took them at their word, because I hadn't gone over the proposed rules in detail myself, but I don't see any exemptions. So there will be no doing the remote ID with a home built, period. So that's Yeah. That's a big deal breaker for me. Let's see, what other things to discuss? Yeah, the manufacturer, the... God. I feel like this is going to be the shortest and bummiest live stream ever. All right, so anybody got questions? I think it might be a channel record for live stream, 300. Unfortunately, God, I wish we had a better... thank you, Broke Mechanic, for the super chat donation. Yep, you can only fly in the FRIAs with the... you can only fly in the FRIAs with your Homebuilts. Flying data, no, $100 doesn't buy you freedom of speech either. You are on my channel. I get to decide. That's how that works. I am not drinking because I figured if I'm going to be talking about regulations and such, I wouldn't be jumping in with the booze tonight because we don't need a drunk Stingy for talking about this. So why only AMA fields? Only AMA fields because the AMA has lobbied for this and has managed to carve out in a way that isn't going to affect all your old timers flying, fixed wing, line of sight. Now, the FPV Freedom Coalition, they want to be a community-based organization that's recognized by the FAA. I have no idea where they stand in their progress on that. Honestly, I could give two shits about whether the FPV Freedom Coalition is recognized as a CBO because I don't care to fly in an empty field. That sounds awful. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. If I can't make it to where I can fly where I want, then I'm not going to. Oh yeah, the other problem is you may be thinking, well, all we got to do is get, X-Hover or TBS to be registered as a drone manufacturer with the FAA and build these drones. One of the problems currently with that is going to be that the requirement that if you try to exceed the 400-foot range, because with the limited, you're limited to 400 feet AGL as well as a 400-foot bubble. So you can't go further than 400 feet away from yourself. It needs to be built into the operating system for the drone that if you try to go beyond those limitations, that it will say and fight you. So and probably going to be required to fight you if you go over 100 miles an hour. Probably going to be required to fight you if you try to break any rules. So that's going to require a lot of work on like Betaflight, KISS, etc. So I don't really see that working. Maybe, if they build it so that it's working over the cell towers. God, yeah. Just so many freaking hurdles. Now, there is a couple of good news. There is like this much of a silver lining. The silver lining is that most of these rules don't go into effect until 36 months after they finally propose the rules. So we've got 3 years, guys. 3 years. The clock's going to start once the proposed rules move forward. I have never seen the FAA make major changes from the comment period. Unfortunately, I don't think our community is big enough to really sway this because the money in Amazon and FedEx and the perceived benefit to the general population is too big. So, Monkey, thank you for the super chat. I may have to move to Ecuador. We're going to have to wait and see. Let's see what we got anyway here. FAA said that anyone buying a drone now should assume it will be worthless and unable to fly legally by next year. Yeah, geofencing. That's right, XJet. That is what it's called. Yeah, DJI may be able to create these drones, but they're going to have a lot of hurdles to jump through in incorporating, because they don't have... Okay, they could make something that flies like a DJI, but I don't know how that would work with them incorporating open source development from like Betaflight into their commercial products. That gets kind of tricky and beyond my expertise. Yeah, gorilla ripping is totally going to be a thing, but it's going to kill channels like mine. Whether or not I am not going to do it. But whether or not I can, I mean, let's be frank. My only means of making money is either through FPV or flying for an airline. So one way or another, I need the FAA to be okay with what I'm doing. So if these rules go into effect, I can't keep making videos, even if I'm flying against the rules, because a crackdown would not be good for me. Electronic control. Yep, 3 years to fly. Too much latency over the towers, Chris Bangert. Now, remember that 3 years is a long time in terms of technology, and we are going to be rolling. You can expect LTE rollout to be in full effect 3 years from now. LTE is going to have a lot of improvements in terms of throughput and latency, depending on which network you're on. I could see latency not being as much of a problem over the network with LTE, but it's still not going to be as good as what we have now with Crossfire, etc. Regardless, Jeff Duke, thank you so much, bro. Wait, where'd the comment go? Tacos on me, dude. We had some bomb tacos last night. If you ever come to Atlanta and you need some post-flying tacos, go to Taqueria Tsunami. It is so good. All right. Yeah, it's gonna piss. I don't think it's gonna piss the RC plane guys off that much, because they'll get to fly in the FAA recognized identification areas and they're happy. I mean, they're not gonna like the registration requirements that they got to register every single plane, etc. But yeah, they're okay. Have both and prefer. Okay, and boom. Between MSM and the CDA, we're doomed. I don't know what the MSM is. Yeah. Yes, this goes for flying on private property, public property. This is a regulation all across all airspace. Yeah, 3 years to go. Gonna be an outlaw. Yeah, well, just because the current executive administration is anti-regulation doesn't mean that all of the bureaucracy under him is. Yeah, clear it. All right. I may have to hop over on Discord and let you guys get in on some comments and discussions. XJet, everybody send me your SD cards. I'll publish them and say they arrived anonymously. I love it. All right. The FAA says that FRIAs are only temporary. I'm not sure where I've seen the statement that the FRIAs are only temporary. Yeah, I agree, Tony. 747 says, I'm an RC plane guy. I don't want to drive 25 minutes to my nearest field to fly when I have a nice grass field on the other side of my neighborhood. I agree. And to be fair, like, why wouldn't you be able to fly your little foamy? I guess technically some of those foamies probably do come in under the 250 gram. And yeah, AMA people need to be shunned. Holy taco. Wait, does Taqueria Tsunami have a bacon taco? I have not had that one. That sounds amazing. Oh, mainstream media. Yeah, between the mainstream media, etc. I get it. Yeah, the micros, for now, anything under the 250 gram is not going to require the registration. That is true. You can fly, you can shoot your gun in the field behind your house, but you can't fly your drone. That is true. Get FPV. I believe Get FPV was included in the meeting for where they came up with the proposed rules. FPV Freedom Coalition seems to think that it's okay to have the FAA recognized identification areas. Oh, the FAA is not going to approve new fields after 1 year. Let's see if I can find any information on that in this here. Okay. Okay, man, this is not a good idea to just sit here and try to read through this crap. Duration of an FAA. I don't see anything about it being only for a year, though. It says that once it's recognized, it'll be recognized for 48 calendar months, and the renewals have to be processed 120 days prior to the expiration date. Let me see. Does somebody have anything clear? No, not you, Siri. This is Stinger Swarm's stream. Yeah. What happens when drones are integrated in the national airspace system with GPS and the... Yeah, I mean, solar flare, yeah, I get it. It sucks. But I don't think that that's a realistic concern. Unfortunately, I can't like read through the whole thing live on stream because that just makes for an awful live stream. The 250 and less gram quads, can they fly any? Okay, yeah, I guess. Okay, the FAA is proposing to accept applications for the recognized identification areas within 12 calendar months of the effective date of the final rule. At the end of that 12-month period, no new applications for FAA recognized identification areas would be accepted. After that date, the number of FAA recognized identification areas could therefore only remain the same or decrease. Over time, the FAA anticipates that most UAS without remote identification will reach the end of their useful lives or be phased out as these numbers dwindle and as compliance with remote identification requirements becomes cheaper and easier. The number of UAS that need to operate only at FAA recognized identification areas would likely drop significantly. I only see that being okay with the RC model and everybody if there's some kind of means to do remote ID on a home built. And I don't see anything in this that is going to allow that. Comment of the night. Turtle strikes fucking kill. Yes, turtle strikes do kill on airplanes. Yep. Yeah. Okay. Tanner D, reach page 73 of the PDF to see if you think 250 grams is safe for long. I doubt that it's going to be safe for very long at this point. Wow. Producer, manufacturer, UAS registrations that are part 107. DJI makes up almost 80% of the total share in terms of registered drones. Wow. That is impressive. All right, I'm going to hop on to Discord because technically it's Thursday night and it should be a Part 107 stream. So I'm going to see who's got questions over there. Let me see here. Oops. Boom. What is up, guys?
What's going on?
Not too much. Not too much. Not a great night. Zorro asks, could DJI goggles be equipped with that type of stuff? I mean, I guess DJI could be implementing some of these into builds that they do. System? But there's no way for them to implement it for Homebuilts under the current regs.
Can they come up with like a FPV video system that includes a GPS and that?
I mean, no, because in order for that to work, you would have to have it be built by a registered manufacturer and signed off by the FAA. So it would have to be a completely built by DJI product.
From top to bottom.
From top to bottom. And yeah.
Even if it's under 250 grams.
Okay. No, not right now, but that's not gonna yeah, the 250 gram thing is not gonna last for very long either.
Yeah, because we're gonna switch to 3 inches and then it's gonna be same. 4 inches.
Yep, I agree. Yeah, DJI can kill the updates with can kill the goggles with an update. That is true, but I'm not really. I don't know. I don't even fly the DJI stuff.
I'm not sure if somebody found it in chat already, but I found that link about kits.
Yeah. Okay. Where did you find the information about kits? Because I wasn't able to find it today when I was looking.
All right. So the version of the document that's 319 pages versus the one they've got on now.
Mm-hmm.
Page 78 in the comments below, it's like comment 53. It says, as currently proposed, amateur-built UAS would not include unmanned aircraft kits where the majority of parts of the UAS are provided to the operator as part of the sold product.
So that was in the PDF that they had on Google Drive before they issued the proposed rules, right?
Yeah.
It's not in what is actually proposed.
So what's the difference between these two documents then?
One was an unofficial pre-release, and the one that is on the regulations.gov is what they've actually proposed.
Yeah, one's like a pre-draft, and then the one is the one that they.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sucks balls.
Well, that's good to know that that I'm not crazy for not being able to find it, at least. Let me just I'm gonna do a command.
Also, Joshua, I think Joshua also commented about it on his talk about this.
Actually, you're right. I do see this. Note 53, as currently proposed, amateur-built UAS would not include unmanned aircraft kits for the majority of parts of the UAS are provided to the operator as part of the sold product. So,
there's another comment in the actual proposal from December 31st too on page 2.
Yeah.
Just type in US.
So okay,
UAS
I got a paragraph for you. Yeah, that's what I searched. The FAA anticipates that some UAS producers will wish to sell complete kits, including all parts and instructions that would allow a person to assemble a fully functional UAS with remote identification. If the kit contains all the parts and instructions necessary to build a standard remote identification UAS or limited remote identification UAS, and the fully assembled UAS would meet the requirements of an FAA accepted means of compliance, then the producer of the kit, not the person assembling the UAS from the kit, is considered the producer of the UAS and is subject to all of the design and production requirements of Subpart F. A requirement for the owner to assemble some or all of the parts of a UAS fabricated by a particular company prior to flight would not turn that owner into a producer for purposes of Subpart F when all the parts and instructions for assembly have been included for sale.
So, What does it mean?
That means that you could get registered as a producer, like X-Hover or DJI could get registered as a producer of drones and have their remote ID like everything okay, but they're gonna have to give you the full kit, everything, not just
instead of a ready to fly, it's a ready to build.
ready to build. And but there's still plenty of hurdles to come because you've got issues with the it's going to have the limitations built in to geofence it. It's going to have other limitations built in. It's kind of a pain. MC Creations, thank you for that. Well, at least we're still going to be able to do FPV with crawlers and RC cars in general, right? I don't know. Right now, they're coming after the UAVs, but pretty soon they're going to be coming after the unmanned vehicles in large. All it takes, if you want to screw over all your RC car friends, I'm gonna say bad things. I don't want to encourage people to go do illegal things. I'm just gonna stop. Don't do scary things with RC cars. We don't need to ruin any other hobbies.
And the other hobby. So my Emacs Interceptor is in danger now?
I don't know. If you go and do something dumb enough with it, it might be. Yeah. Lone Lion asks, sub 249 gram 3-inch forged carbon stingy build release date? ? It's funny. I've actually been shopping for some micros, not because of the impending rules, but just because I was really wanting to get one. I don't know. I've narrowed it down to the Mobula 6 or the Meteor 65. Anybody got opinions? Everybody says the Mobula 6, but I swear the Meteor 65 looks like a more robust build. I don't know. Am I crazy?
Yeah, all the beta FPV looks really good usually, but the Mobula is really.
I've got Mobula and I love them.
Yeah. I got a bunch of beta FPVs like 75, 85, 65, but I don't know. I like the Mobula.
Yep, exactly. AJ Walsh, the FRIAs are anticipated to no longer be necessary. It's only a 12-month window to get in as a FAA recognized identification area. Man, I mean, it just kills all experimentation. Like, you're not going to ever have Peter Schriepel being able to make a, leaf blower fly or, I don't know, man. It sucks. It's, you're not going to have that sort of experimentation going on in your local STEM, high school. Yeah.
Can I register my backyard?
You can, if you have, no, because you're in Ecuador.
But I live in Miami, right?
I get it. No, if you are in the States, you cannot register your backyard. If you are, head honcho at the AMA and you can get the AMA to register your backyard, then go for it.
So what's up with this Freedom Coalition that Dave Mencia and Chad and everybody?
I mean, it's.
How did they help?
They didn't. Unfortunately, I mean, I don't want to. I appreciate them trying to do things, but it didn't really do any good. I'm not frozen. Refresh your thing, Michael, but you can't hear that because your stream's frozen. Yeah, I don't know. They were a part of the meeting where the FAA discussed these rules before they put out the proposed rules, but I doubt that they're going to. I doubt that they're happy about it.
Lobby power.
Yeah, no, and I mean, let's face it. The FAA's job and mandate is to do things that are, for the greatest good for the most people. And right now, the perceived greatest good for the most people is to make it so that Amazon can deliver your packages, and FedEx can do stuff, and all these other companies can do things.
It's health companies also.
Yeah, and health companies and all sorts of other stuff. That is perceived as a greater good than a small segment of the population that likes to fly these things for fun. It's not so good. Like, everybody's talking about what's going to inspire the next generation of tinkerers and people that are pushing the bounds, and I agree. it's going to kill a lot of that, you know?
My neighbor in Miami is a doctor. He's saying that they're gonna start using drones to deliver defibrillators to some, but
Yeah, I've seen some cool stuff with that. PMX says, but Peter could still make and fly actual planes. Those would end up having less regulations than the 251 gram drone. That is true.
That is true.
And sad. Yeah, you can do a lot more with an ultralight plane that flies a person around than you can with a unmanned drone. Art is a form of free speech. Flight is an art. Thus, flying is freedom of speech. You know, you've got an argument there, but I don't think that it's going to stand.
Not gonna hold. Yeah.
I get your argument. I do not think that the hobbies disrupt the commercial UAVs. It's just. No, I don't think it disrupts it. I just feel like it's a general power grab from the FAA. It does implement and make things easier for companies like Amazon and like FedEx to do beyond visual line of sight drones, because it gives them a means for calming the nerves of, grandpa that looks in the sky and sees drones and gets upset. He can point his phone at it and be like, oh, that's an Amazon. That's an okay drone or whatever. So yeah. Dude, yeah, build, fly an ultralight, no license, no regulation, no transponder, buy a 251 gram model of that plane, and all of the above apply. That is exactly right, XJet. Dude, I don't know. Anybody got anything else they want to talk about with this? Because I feel like it's just evolving into a bash. As much as I am not happy about it, Trump signed the bill making all of this possible. Vote 2020. Steve Beatty says, I do beyond... XJet says, I do beyond visual line of sight anyways. I don't need no stinking regulations to make it safe. I agree. XJet is not in the U.S. I don't do beyond visual line of sight.
Why would you?
Why would I? Because I want to fly stuff. Anyways.
Will this kill whoop races?
No, because whoop races can go on indoors. We can do that for days. The micros are gonna be where it's at. You know what's gonna happen is I'm gonna be just terrorizing shopping malls across the country with my micro brushless. Just go in there and rip over people's heads and have a big F the FAA logo at the beginning.
There you go.
Will we be able to buy product? Daniel Zellerton asks. I don't see any way that they're going to stop the sale of the products because you're going to have companies like Banggood, you're going to have companies like TBS, you're going to have companies that are selling this stuff and shipping it in. The FAA has no ability to ban products. So they are not like technically banning the sale of this stuff. Like, you could buy a fully functional drone that breaks all of those rules, and Get FPV could sell it because the FAA isn't, imposing a ban. They're just saying you can't fly it. So that is totally, totally a viable thing. I think you'll still be able to buy stuff. I feel that DRL should be doing something to stop this as well, but again, DRL is a fairly small operation. MultiGP, I haven't seen a statement from MultiGP.
But isn't MultiGP like regulated? All the places are regulated by FAA, so they wouldn't have any problem.
No, that's not going to do that at all, because number one, they're not flying at Okay, if MultiGP got recognized as a CBO, community-based organization, then their flying location would have to be registered as a FRIA, the FAA recognized identification area, and they're going to quit recognizing new FRIAs after 12 months. So they would have to establish all of the locations for all races ever to happen in the future within the first year of this going into effect.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and DRL is indoors.
Aren't a lot of the races at AMA fields, though?
A decent number of them are, I would say.
Not the regional ones. Not the small ones, I think. Not all the chapters.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like IO, it's an AMA field, right?
Yeah.
So
it is.
Wouldn't, like, we still have IO.
Yeah. And there's going to be other ones, some of the local ones here are at AMA fields as well. But, if the AMA, the problem is even if your local AMA field gets registered, a lot of times these AMA fields have to move because, their agreement with the landowner runs out or whatever. And if that happens, there's no way to register a new field. Thank you, Toby Murrison, for the $5 towards my retirement fund, and don't retire. Yeah, contribute to Stingy's retirement fund right here. Link in the description. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you.
You can fly bandos, right? Inside bandos.
Yeah, you could fly inside of a bando. I don't know exactly at what point it becomes an outdoor flight. What if the bando's roof is ripped off? All right, hello, kitty. I'm glad you're on my lap with the claws. Yeah, so you could fly it indoors at a bando. I think the idea, dividing by zero, is saying, talking about the cops and... All right. P. Guyver asks, and everyone else, how often have you, any of you, actually had law enforcement interactions? I've personally never had any problem, but I mob 1 to 2 packs, then move. So I have had interactions with police on, I don't know, a couple dozen occasions. It's pretty rare. I've never had a bad interaction. Usually the cops come out and they see it and they're like, that's cool. And then whatever. I've had bad interactions with rando people where they want to fight me or say they're going to ram our car to keep us from leaving a spot because they've called the cops. And then the cops come and make them leave because they're being violent and dangerous. I've never had a bad interaction. And hell, this last weekend or New Year's Day, we went and flew an office park, and security rolled up. We thought we were going to get kicked out as we were parking, and he was like, no, you guys can't park here. What are you going to do? And we were like, he's like, do you work here? And we're like, no, we're just taking pictures. He's like, well, follow me. I'll show you where you can park. And he drove us around, parked us. He came out while Steele was literally waiting around in the pond and showed up. He saw Steele in their pond and was like, he asked what happened. We were like, we lost a camera in the pond. He's like, is it worth that much? We're like, yeah, it is. It was pretty funny. It was good stuff.
How many of those interactions with security or cops have they ever mentioned the regulations for flying or things like that?
None, because the cops don't ever know it. I think the FAA wants...
So who's going to enforce that? Cops?
All along, the FAA wants to get local law enforcement on the enforcement side of the FAA. They've never been able to successfully do it, and they want. I know what they want to do is they want to be able to put a smartphone on the cops, or a smartphone app on their phone where they can just point it and be like, that one's good or that one's not. From there. Lou Johnson, it's almost as if the AMA intended to use FPVers as a throw under the bus strategy. I mean, maybe, but it doesn't do them any good either because their fields are going to be killed after they only have a year to open up FRIAs, and then once those start to expire or they need new fields, they can't do it. I don't know. It doesn't. whether they want to throw us under the bus or not, it's not helping them any either. Gab, do I think that it will actually happen? Yes. I don't think that the proposed rules are going to change. Now, what I will say, this is one thing that I will say, is I think that these proposed rules will go into effect. And there's, like I said, there's a 36-month window where, or 3 years, where the rules have been implemented, but you have 3 years to start complying. During that 3 years, a lot is going to change. Because if you just look back 3 years, regulatory wise, 3 years ago, we didn't have 107. We had the 333 exemptions. We didn't have the implementation of like the FPV rules, etc., was very different. The drone registration was not a thing. I think that things could change so much in 3 years that this could become irrelevant. But I do believe that they will make these the rules going forward.
So let's say everything changes towards the rules, and what does it look like?
What do you mean?
Like, let's say, like, you mean once the regulation comes out, everything it's gonna start changing towards that, right? Like,
once the comment period closes, they will write the regulations, and then those will be the rules. But once they write those regulations, as proposed, there will be 3 years until it's fully enforced. So you'll have 3 years that we can continue to operate as we have so far. But the drone cells, they are only allowed for the 24 months before any drone manufacturers. Wait. I remember reading that. Hang on a second. Yeah, the 24 months after the all right. The effective date of these regulations, any non-exempt unmanned aircraft weighing more than 0.55 pounds must have an FAA accepted declaration of compliance. Now, that's just saying that they won't be able to make pre-builts. So your like X-Hover pre-builts won't be legal to sell. I wonder how that's going to work with... They don't have enforcement, and you can't say that a flight controller is a drone. You can't say a motor's a drone. I don't know. That's going to be it's going to be a clusterfuck no matter what.
Do you think there's any chance they could change the weight limit?
I don't think that they will. I think that's highly unlikely.
Like, let's say you're Trappy. What's your next move?
If I'm Trappy, I am looking to implement use what they're already working on, the Wi-Fi connection between the Crossfire, the goggle module, and your cell phone, and then plug a GPS into the flight controller and use that cell phone connection to do the remote ID and get certified that way, so that his electronics package is it's possible that he can get it certified, so that his electronics package is remote ID certified and can be used in builds, so that X-Hover could just build stuff with all TBS gear, and or not necessarily even build, but could sell kits with all TBS gear. So I think that's TBS's next move. But we've got a lot of hurdles in terms of Betaflight being able to do the geofencing, etc., that are going to require. James Pollack, thank you so much. Wouldn't this be incredibly easy to spoof whatever signal they'd be looking for? No. Yeah, they may change it to be a lower weight limit. I agree. Have they ever seen a mini quad in person? Questionable. A lot of when I got called in to do the carpet dance with the FAA a couple years ago, I educated them on capabilities, etc. I think that would be reasonable. Will people be allowed to throw frisbees, or do they need to be compliant too? Yeah, yeah. Frisbee is not a UAS because you're not remotely controlling it. Now, a control line frisbee, maybe. All right. Yeah, I agree. Who actually uses bind and fly and ready to fly? Not many people. It's gonna definitely change the makeup of the market for sure.
Yeah, that's what I was asking. Like, if everything is changing and we know, like, we kind of know where it's supposed to go according to the rules, what does it look like in 5 years? I know it's kind of a deep, deep question.
I
But,
think what it
like,
looks like in
with all these
5 years
changes,
is that there will be a much smaller market for FPV gear, and there's just going to be a handful of videographers, camera operators. Like Steele and Johnny are going to be flying kits that are signed. They'll have their pro model kit that is signed off on, and but there's not going to be a ton of hobbyists that are doing it because of all of these hurdles. I think it's going to kill the hobby section. There will be fanboys that want to be like that and try to get those jobs that will buy those kits and fly them. But that's kind of my take on it. UFDA kite swarm. I love it. Dividing by zero is getting a CNC mill so he can cut his own frames. Yeah, I agree. Please follow the link in the description. Go and comment on this as well.
I mean, it's not. There's not gonna be a lack of parts. There's still the entire world that's still buying things. I know the U.S. is a huge market, but
I agree.
I don't know.
Are we really though?
Drone raid the FAA.
It's growing faster in Asia and things like that, but it's still the U.S. is a big market.
Mm-hmm.
I just think with all the China would be the big market, so if they lose us, that's still going to be a smaller percentage versus like China and Korea.
The China market is very different.
Money.
Like it's interesting. You know, China is technologically in a lot of ways more advanced than us. In some ways, let's say, but the FPV market is like well behind. In like 2018, we were over there, and the drone racing was blowing up like it was 2016. So they're like drone racing, drone hobbyists are kind of behind the curve of the U.S. market.
The economy is a little bit behind the U.S.
Yeah.
economy, so there's not a lot of people that can invest on FPV. They can build them for Americans to buy. I mean, but not.
Yeah. Other nations will follow the U.S. FAA template. That is true. This proposed rule also discusses what the ICAO, the International Coalition of Aviation Organizations, is currently working on. They're working on some what's known as UTM, the UAV traffic management and beyond visual line of sight stuff for UAVs. I think that this is going to be coming to most ICAO countries in the near future.
What's ICAO?
It's the International Coalition of Aviation Organizations. So the FAA is a member, like the basically every civilized country that has an aviation organization, and they try to adhere to the ICAO standards.
You said civilized?
Yeah, Ecuador isn't part of that. Ecuador is not part of that. Yeah, the cats are they're not getting kinky. They're being nice, loving brothers. and bathing each other. Reminder to archive and distribute via torrent multiple versions of Betaflight. I mean, I've got enough versions of Betaflight on my own computer that it's not going anywhere. All right. Well, I think that airline pilots can't blame drones for their mistakes after this. I don't know that they were blaming drones for their mistakes to begin with. They were just reporting, you know, trash bags as being a drone. 507. If the FAA wants any kind of compliance, they need to give us something in return for following their new rules. I mean, it doesn't work like that. I don't know what to tell you. Oh, that's funny. Funk FPV, it's time for FPV to invade AMA fields and take them over. Oh god, I don't want to go there and fly to begin. Anyways, everyone buy ultralights and let's do power loops over people legally. Yeah, I don't know. There's like no form of civil disobedience that I really see as a viable path for me. I don't know. All right, guys. Well, this is devolving quickly, so I am going to wrap it up and call it a night. Anybody else got any more questions before I do? All right, I am out. Thank you for joining me. If you are not already a patron, please follow the link below and go over and sign up for my patron and help support me. I don't know. I'm just going to plug the things. You know what? Because you guys have stuck around, does anybody want to see like a preview of my next video? I don't know.
Sure.
Sure. Why not? We're gonna end it on that
Something
note.
less depressing.
I know, right? Let's end it with some fun flights.
Your kitties on the back are cool. Kevin, did you watch Don't Fuck with Cats?
What was that?
Did you watch on Netflix Don't Fuck with Cats?
I have not.
Oh, alright.
Yeah, this goes downhill really quickly. It starts out with just some fun flying.
I've been to this spot.
Did you get to hit this? I don't think you did. This wasn't
Yeah,
found.
of course I did.
Right in the water. Steel was like, I'll show you guys where you can fly here and where you can't. Straight water bomb.
Okay, I was looking at the video. Wait.
Oh, yeah. It was behind. Yeah, you went to the Bando office, not this spot.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you know, I kind of thought this was going to happen based on how he was aggressively ripping through here. But a tree jumped out in front of him, and he cartwheeled into the water. And we're hoping he's even in this part of the water.
All right, so new spot and first pack. No one was killed during the making of this video, nor was anyone endangered for that matter.
We got fresh waders. Check this out. Oh yeah. Steel's getting in the water. I hope that this is successful and he can find his quad with these.
All right, if you guys want to see how that ends, then stay tuned. Turn on the notifications. I'm going to go finish that edit tonight, and that ought to be up first thing tomorrow with my flight from the spot, as well as you'll find out whether or not Steel gets his drone back. So, all right, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and we will catch you guys next time. Wait, do I have to, like, wait to hit the end stream, or if it's behind, it's going to end properly? I'm going to just do it with confidence.